Hi, my name is Campbell,
Hi, my name is Sarah.
and for our final project, we did the physics of track. We did two separate experiments. The first one was with blocks and tuck jumps and seeing if they had an effect on your acceleration.
For our second experiment, we are determining if jumping over a hurdle is more effective than hitting the hurdle.
Now we're going to show you the videos that we took of us doing the different experiments with the block and tuck jumps. Before we play the videos of us going through the blocks, these are the things you should know before we find acceleration.
The distance for all of the sprints was 9.73 meters.
We used the same formula, which is D equals VIT plus 1/2 AT squared.
The experiment was done in all of the same conditions.
It took us 2.3 seconds to get from point A to point B.
And after doing the math, the acceleration is 3.68.
Similar to the last one, it took 2.33 seconds.
And after the math, it was also 3.58.
It took me 2.52 seconds to run it.
And the acceleration was 3.06.
Similar to the last one, it was 2.53 seconds.
And the acceleration was 3.04. As you can see, the blocks give you a higher acceleration, but the tuck jump has no effect on your time.
Coaches might tell you to do a tuck jump before your race, not because it's going to make you faster, but because it might get you into a routine, but we found that it doesn't actually have an effect on your time.
Now for our second experiment, I'm going to explain why it's more effective to hit the hurdle rather than to float over the hurdle.
The physics behind the best height to jump over a hurdle has to do with projectile motion.
Before we get into the physics of hurdling, we are going to ask some less experienced people how they think the best way to hurdle is.
What's your name?
Spencer Dodds.
And what are your credentials for hurdles? Do you have any?
I ran, almost came second place in the 400 hurdles.
Why did you come second place?
I tripped over the last one and got disqualified. There's only 2 people running it, so.
Okay, so in your opinion, what's the fastest way to go over a hurdle?
Just barely over, and then land on your feet well.
Okay, thank you.
What's your name?
Christian Manhattan.
What is your credentials with hurdling?
I have done one hurdles race, and I did not do so great.
What do you think the best way to go over a hurdle is?
To jump over it.
Yeah, nice!
What's your name? Ella. And what are your credentials with hurdles, if you have any?
Never hurdled. I avoid it.
What do you think is the fastest way to go over a hurdle?
Jumping over a hurdle.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Ruby Malali.
What's your credentials with hurdling?
I've never done it in my entire life.
What is the fastest way to go over a hurdle?
Over it.
The overall consensus we seemed to get from the amateurs that we interviewed was that you should just jump over the hurdle, which in reality is not at all what you want to do. According to a track coach that wrote an article on the best technique to use when hurdling, he says, "Throughout my hurdling life and coaching life, I agreed with the general consensus that vertical is bad. One of my mantras when educating beginners was hurdlers don't jump," and then I'd go on to explain that hurdling is an elongated sprinting stride.
Next up, we are going to get the coach's opinions on the right way to hurdle. What is your name?
My name is Coach Lazama.
What is your credentials with hurdling?
With hurdling, like I done in high school, either the 100 or the 400. It's a mid kind of race. You got to sprint through the whole thing, especially with the 400. So it's hard, but throughout high school, yes.
What is the best way to jump over a hurdle?
Best way to jump over a hurdle is attacking the hurdle first. Making sure that you get your steps right, you practice your steps, because the further you jump away from the hurdle, it's either you're landing too close, which sometimes you want, but according to again how tall you are or whatnot, your steps change. But if you are attacking the hurdle, staying low to it, keeping your body straight, your head straight, and you're not moving too much of the upper body, you'll get more of the speed going. You're not going off track when you land, so you're just going straight through.
Think your name. What's your name?
Mr. Drexler.
What is your credentials with hurdling?
I hurdled in junior high.
What is the best way to jump over a hurdle?
You don't jump over hurdles.
What do?
You run over them.
Thankfully, the coaches understand the physics behind hurdles better than our teammates. Both Drexler and Lazama mentioned something really important about how you go over the hurdles. Drexler's, like the last coach, said to run over them, and Lazama mentioned the phrase attack the hurdle.
Next, we are going to show you what attacking the hurdle is and why this is more effective than floating over the hurdle.
Sarah's gonna do the improper way to jump over first, and then after that, she's gonna show you how to jump as close to the hurdle as possible.
Before hurdling, I stretched very thoroughly and did hurdle mobility, and we used what we found earlier, and I did not do a chuck jump, but I used a block.
As you can see, Sarah is purposefully high over the hurdle.
This is the diagram of how I jumped over the hurdle in that last video. This is the least effective way to jump over a hurdle. My vertical component is much larger than my horizontal component, and because of that, I am losing a lot of momentum and acceleration.
In the bottom right corner, it shows the vectors of the horizontal and vertical component, and you can see how big the vertical component is compared to the horizontal component. And that's exactly why it takes longer, is because you have so much more air time than you would if you were close to the hurdle. And not only do you have more air time, but you have more likely of a chance to get off balance and lose momentum in your acceleration.
If you remember back in the beginning of the year when we talked about complementary angles, this looks most like a 60-degree angle. As you can see, I'm as low as you possibly can be because my foot is making contact with the hurdle.
This method of going over the hurdle is called attacking it, and it's more effective than floating over it because you have less air time. This time around, Sarah's horizontal component of velocity is much bigger than her vertical component, and that's what's contributing to her having less time in the air.
This still isn't the best way to jump over a hurdle because you are still hitting the hurdle, which does slow you down, but is way better than jumping over the hurdle because more of your momentum is directed forward rather than upwards.
If you think back to our complementary angles, this looks most like a 30-degree angle to us. As we all know, this is not the optimal angle for projection, or in this case, just jumping over an object.
As you can see in the diagram in the bottom right corner, most of your velocity is directed forward, not up, like the other diagram, and this is way better because this is going to make you faster and not slow down and lose time while you're in the air.
Instead of showing you the absolute perfect way to go over a hurdle, we're going to explain it because neither of us have the absolute perfect form, so it's more effective to explain the perfect form.
As you can see, this is an image of a hurdler with perfect form. He's not floating over the hurdle or hitting it. He is just gliding over it, which is the right way to do it because he's not losing any speed at all while doing this.
This looks most like a 45-degree angle to us, which makes sense because it was the best angle for projection and it's the best angle for going over a hurdle.
In the bottom right, you can see the two vectors, and they are not too horizontal or not too vertical, and this is perfect for just grazing over the hurdle.
Thanks for watching! Next time you watch a hurdle race, don't be shocked if all the hurdles down, because now you know why.
It's Sarah.
And it's Campbell.
Make sure to like and subscribe and turn those post notifications on if you want to be notified when we post another video. And it's Maud.